Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. Welcome to 2026. We're kicking things off with Linfield University and Coach Joe Smith. Before we get into Coach Smith, let's talk about Linfield. It's in McMinnville, Oregon. It has 1,641 students. They have an 85% acceptance rate. They have a 67% grad rate. It's $71,000 before aid, $31,000 after aid. Their top three majors are nursing and health sciences, business management, and education. Now, for those of you who are new, this is what we do. Every week, we're going to tell you the quick hit facts on the university or college that we're talking about. And then we're going to give you a quick rundown of who we're talking to, and then we go into the episode. So, talking about this week, kicking things off for us here in 2026, Coach Joe Smith. We talk about his journey through the program. He's been there now 37 years, in different, from playing days all the way up to today. They're going for year 70 on their winning season streak. We talk about the expectations that come with being a Wildcat, and we talk about what lies ahead for Linfield. But it's not my job to tell Coach Smith's story. It's his. So without further ado, this is Coach Smith. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Linfield University, Coach Joe Smith. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time and excited to talk with you.
Absolutely. I couldn't think of a better way to start the 2026 season than sitting down with number 26 from Linfield back in the day. So let's talk about it. How did you find yourself in McMinnville, Oregon in 1989, playing for then NAIA Linfield University?
Well, we had a great coach here at the time named Ad Rutschman, and Ad's in every Hall of Fame you can be in. And in my opinion, we should just call the school Rutschman University. It's pretty much what it is, in my opinion. But so I when I met him, he came down, he recruited me, and I got to meet him, and I was sold just with his culture of excellence right out of the gate. And I played down in Grants Pass, Oregon. We were back then, the SOC was really strong in the state of Oregon, really strong, and we were always kind of that third place team behind Roseburg and Jim Nagel's Ashland teams, and Medford always was good at different times, back then, South Medford at that moment. But and so I wanted to be, part of a team that could play for national championship, and certainly Coach Rutschman allowed us to do that, and I just was really intrigued by his tremendous focus on doing things right and doing it the best you can do, and resonated with me right away. So that's what drew me up here.
And pretty successful coming for your 4 years there as a player, pretty successful program. We're leading up to you coming there, pretty successful, a lot of NAIA championship. What was your playing experience like? I mean, you were pretty damn good corner from the stats. I think I saw 135 tackles and 16 interceptions was what you finished with.
Yeah, sounds good. I know it was something like that, but I actually can't recite them. I know it sounds silly, but a long time ago. But no, our defenses were always strong here. I got to play for some amazing coaches that were at Linfield. I think that's really been a factor here. And Jay Losey was my secondary coach, and really who taught me the ins and outs of defense, and I got to coach for him for kind of under him for about 13 years. Chris Casey, also another head football coach at Fox. He finished up there. He was also on staff at the time, a great defensive coach. I got to learn coaching from him, but they were all on our staffs, and Ed Langsdorf, another Hall of Fame coach. So we just had this tremendous coaching staff, and I felt like every game that we played, we were prepared really well in terms of knowing what the other team was going to do and how our plan to stop it, and what our weaknesses were with each call, and how we were going to negate those weaknesses. And I think that confidence, as well as attention to detail in your preparation, I think really paid off in wins and losses. And our 92 team was really good. We had a tremendous team in 92.
And that 92 season, I believe the only loss from my research, as I was looking through your resume, the only loss of that season comes in the NAIA National Championship. Um, Now, after a game like that, you lose in the national championship. It's your last game, theoretically. Uh, you're getting a psych degree from Linfield. When does the coaching bug grab you? When does that start to click that this I kind of want to do this?
That's a great question. I was a psych major, and I really didn't know if I wanted to go into psychology. At that time, it was still a great field. I don't know that I would touch it these days. But I went and got, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that or coach. And so I got married. My wonderful girlfriend through high school and college, and we were able to get married. So trying to figure out what to do. So I actually detailed cars, had a college degree, and I was detailing cars, going back to school, and wanted to work at a boys' home. So I worked at a boys and girls home at Chehalem House there in Newburgh, and gave psych a chance, and then detailed cars and coached, and I did that for 1 year, and I said, I know what I want to do. I want to coach. I love working with this age group. I love working with guys that are driven, intrinsically motivated, want to be the best and master their craft. And not that I didn't like psych, but psych, you were fixing really wounded people, and that takes a different mentality, and it takes a toll on you. Whereas, not that we're not doing that in football. I think we use a tremendous amount of psychology as a coach, but because you are repairing young men, but you also have young men that are extremely talented and driven, and you can really, I think, focus on that aspect. And so I think that really drew me to that. So I went and got my master's at Oregon State in sports psychology, and came back and taught at Linfield, and then eventually worked my way up.
Now, do you that 93 season, right? It's there's some changes kind of coming because Linfield and the rest of the Northwest Conference is starting to move to the Division 3 level. I don't think Linfield doesn't full-fledged member until 1998, but you're coaching there while you're detailing cars and getting the master's degree at Oregon? You're coaching the linebackers and the linemen?
I am. Yeah, exactly. So kind of started just trying to pay the bills, and find a way to pay the bills while I was going to school, and coach. So I tried it all, and then I think I did that for a year, and then I quit the psych, Chehalem House stuff and the detailing cars, and then Linfield paid me more, and I became just a student until I finished my master's. But um, and then I guess a 4 year period before we became, so the NAIA was pretty good. Like the NAIA days were really good football, and our conference was the Columbia Football Association at the time, and the CFA, and it was without question the best college football conference in the country. So like the winner of our conference won the national champion or played for it, I think about 8 or 9 straight years. So, we had Mark Weekly, was killing it. We had John Kitna, who played, for the Seahawks, and he was up at Central Washington, but Central had great teams. OIT had great teams, believe it or not. They dropped their program, but they had great football. Southern had some good teams, but it really was Central Washington really got to be pretty good along with us, and PLU was pretty good back then. Um, but then as that broke up, when we went to Division 3, it was kind of sad because we didn't play any of the states anymore. So the private schools all went Division 3, and the state schools either stayed in NAI or went Division 2. And then that really kind of broke everyone apart. So it's sad to see.
No. So all the private schools from your conference that you played in just moved when the Northwestern Conference was or Northwest Conference was created. That's where everybody kind of the private schools went there, and then as you said, the state schools kind of stayed NAIA or went up to the Division 2 level. What is that transition like when you're transitioning from the NAIA level to the Division 3 level?
Well, I think number one, you lost your money, right? So we had scholarships back then. So as a coach, I definitely did not like it. You went from being able to to give kids, certain kids a little bit more to make it a little more affordable. And I think that was really hard losing that. And I just really disliked not being able to play the Western Washingtons, the Central Washingtons, because I always thought we were the best, right, if not the best, right near the best of all those teams. And now you didn't get to play that. Western Oregon was in that, right? We used to get after Western pretty good, in those days, and so I think it was hard just not having that financial bump that you could give kids to make it a little bit more affordable. Um, but the NAI was folding, so that everyone left because it was going to go under, and so it lost about 100 something odd members. So it went from a huge number of schools to now just very few, and I know it's about half of what it used to be still. And so that was a stay alive, I guess decision that was way above my pay grade. Presidents were making that, so we just made the best of it and made the best of what we could. So certainly it's different. The playoff situations are everything's a little bit better at Division III in terms of financing and the way they run the tournaments, and if that makes sense. Things are funded a little bit stronger than in the NAI today.
Now, going back to the beginning of you getting into coaching, um, what what's that experience like when you're coaching guys who a year ago you were maybe locker buddies with, or and how does that help you when you have a player come to you now and say, "Hey, I think I want to do this." What is that experience like? What's the advice you give somebody that's thinking about that?
No, that's a great question. I think it's a really hard transition because you go from being, like you said, friends to now I'm a coach, and so you have different loyalties, and I think as a young coach, your first loyalty is to the coaching staff, and so you can't tell the players what you're hearing in the coach's locker room. You don't get to divulge that. You have confidentiality, and then both ways. I don't think you can be a tattletale running around and being a spy, in the players' locker room telling the coaches everything that's going on. You don't want that either. So you're treading this really strange no man's land. I'm a young coach, but I'm also you might even be living with the players. We get young guys that are living with players still, and that's really awkward. So I guess it was easier for me. I was married, I graduated, we were married, living, so it wasn't much easier for me in that regards. I also got to go coach a different position, so that was a little bit easier. Cut ties with the DBs and was working with the linebackers, so that was a little bit easier that way. But it's something every young coach has to balance and navigate. It's tricky, and so the best advice is just protect your loyalties to the coaching staff and clearly separate when we're coach and when we're player, and have some boundaries, because the guys that struggle are the ones with no boundaries.
Mhm. Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, Coach, after as you said, you dipped your toe in, you left psychology, you left the boys and girls home. This coaching thing is what do you want to do? 1999 rolls around, and now you're the defensive coordinator at Linfield. What has kept you through this point? Not once you become the head coach. 1999, you take the defensive coordinator job. What's kept you at Linfield?
Well, I think that's a great question. I get asked that a lot, and I don't know. I don't really know the answer. I guess it's life, and it's kind of everything. One, I love the place, so I think I love Linfield. I've given my whole life to it. In reality, right? I've been here my whole life, and so I've had other jobs that have come around and other offers, but they never were good enough or paid enough or sexy enough, whatever the adjective is, to pull me out of here. Around those times, I was coaching and teaching. I was a teacher, so I with my master's, I was able to teach in the exercise science department, and it was a good lucrative job, and I knew I didn't want to. The real answer is I knew I didn't want to move 18 times. And every coaching friend that I have that jumped on different carousels, their kids never had a regular upbringing, K through 12 in a school with all their friends. And I wanted my kids uh, to have that experience. And so we had kids, about the time you're asking about. We were looking at some other jobs, but we just had some kids kind of 98 or 97 and 98 and then 2000. So by that time, it's like, okay, what do we want for them? What's the lifestyle we want? And here our kids can stay in this town. It's a great it's one school town. It's a safe town, good place to raise a family. And so at those, I think most coaches leave after about 10 years. That's a real common thing you see in coaching is it because you really don't know what you're doing until about year 10. I mean, I know every young coach thinks they know what they're doing, but you really start to get it. I really feel like probably in any industry, about 10 years in, you really begin to master it, or at least have the chance to, if you're fortunate enough to be able to stay. And so about the time those came around, we kind of liked where we were living, liked, the house we're in, and just all that. And um, so I guess that's the short answer. And then we started winning and got really good. Went on a tear, it was hard to leave that. So
Now, you talk about winning and being pretty good. Those defenses were pretty good, culminating in that, the 2004 team that knocks off Mary Hardin Baylor, gets a national title. I heard an interview today as I was prepping that you did about 2 years ago, where you said the next year's team may have been better than that team. They were probably one of the best groups that you had collected, or not collected. That's a weird way to say that, but that was the best group that you've coached. And then that team from Wisconsin, and I have another question about a team from Wisconsin based on your some of the stats that I've seen. But what was it about? What was the biggest difference, I guess, between the '04 team and the '05 team?
well, honestly, the simplest answer is Whitewater was better in '05 than anybody we played in '04. I mean, that's the simple answer, right? That the team that beat us was better than what we had seen in '04. I don't think anyone challenged us in '04. We had a young defense in '04. I guess our biggest challenge was a Wisconsin Stevens Point. We played them early in the year, and our defense was just kind of finding its way. We were really good in '03. Our team was awesome in '03. We had a phenomenal defense. We were really good. We graduated a bunch of those guys from that '03 team, and so we were young on defense in '04. We had an amazing quarterback in '03, but then we got this, transfer quarterback came in, and we kind of picked right up where we left off, and our offense really carried us kind of early through the '04 season. By the end of the '04 year, those young kids were grown up, and we were pretty solid. That's why I'm saying in '05, all those kids were back.
Mhm.
The young guys were all back in '05. Um, we just maybe our tailbacks weren't maybe as good. We lost, maybe that's one spot. Our '04 tailbacks were pretty darn good. Um, but uh, but I think the easiest answer was Wisconsin wasn't a team. They just were not a very good team in '03, in '04, and suddenly they actually what they did is they came out and they watched us play in 2000. Their coach did, totally changed how they were recruiting, got more speed, and knew that they would have to have more speed to beat the teams out here. And then in '05 they came out and they were really stinking good. It was a really good football team.
Now, is that but I don't want to jump ahead of myself here, but is that has that been something that you guys with the WIAC have done? I noticed, Oshkosh last year came to you guys. This year you're going to Oshkosh. You mentioned Stevens Point. Um, is that a mutual agreement between the two conferences that you guys are going to play a non-con, or is that just worked out for you as that's a team or that's a conference that we know will come and play us and we can go and play them?
I think it's really the second, right? What you just described. Nobody wants to play the teams in that conference, so they're all good, like from top to bottom. I think there is no question that is the deepest conference in all of Division III football. They're all good. Even the fifth place team is good. The sixth place team's good. Maybe the last place team is average, but even other conferences, the last place team's horrible, right?
Right.
Well, they're horrible, still good. They're just all good, and so. Um, that's one of it's just hard to get games, and so that's a conference that is willing to play us, I guess.
Um, let's jump back into coaching. So you go from in '99, you're the defensive coordinator all the way until '05, '06, you become the head coach. What is that process like? And I asked a lot of coaches this before. I'm guessing not a lot of X's and O's get talked about when you're interviewing to be the head football coach at a college because they probably assume that you know the X's and O's. I'm sure more of that conversation is recruitment, retention, fundraising, improving the facilities, improving the overall experience for the student athlete. Why did you feel you were ready to make that next step, and what was that process like, going through it, interviewing, and then getting the job?
A good question. I think when Coach Losey was, like I said, he was my DB coach, and then he became the head coach here, and just a tremendous football coach, great mentor. I worked very closely with him, and so I feel like after 14 years of working with him, kind of knew how we did it here. I got to play for Rutschman before that, so um, and Linfield's really steeped in a culture and how you treat young men, how you train, how everything we do, from the way we lift to the way I mean, we're always adjusting it and we're always adapting. I think we adapt a lot, but how we treat each other and the core values of the program don't change. And so, I was really confident in that. And when Jay stepped away, it was kind of, he and the athletic director, Scott Carnahan, another tremendous coach. I got to coach baseball for here. I also coached baseball for 8 years here, um, or 7 or 8, I can't remember. But they just kind of, you were the guy. So I think it was, not gonna say it was obvious, but it just, it was kind of the transition period, I guess. Or
It
well, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for,
it
but
seems
that.
it's a tradition thing for Linfield. And as I said to you off camera or before we started recording, I would be remiss if I didn't point out 69 straight seasons. This year would be going for number 70. It's the longest active streak in all divisions at all college football. The interesting part of that is the only team that I could find that was even close to you guys is Boise State, and it's not close. It's 27 winning seasons for them at the FBS level. Um, 5 coaches over that time frame. It seems that this Linfield thing, it really is. It's a family. Once you're in, you're in. Um, Speaking of which, I was looking around. You got to bring your immediate family into that family. Both of your sons got to play under you. Your older son, I believe, was a quarterback, and your youngest son was a wide receiver. Older son was pretty good quarterback. I think he's number 2 behind the guy that's coaching up there at Lewis and Clark, Fred Elliott. What was it like having the experience of coaching your sons?
It's hard to. I almost did 0 interviews on that. It's interesting. A lot when that was going on, a lot of people wanted to ask that, and I just really didn't talk about it. Trying to give them a regular college experience if you could, right? And it's of course it wasn't right because they grew up on that field. You got to understand. These they grew up coming to practice all the time. My wife would bring them every Tuesday, every Friday. So, 2, 3 times a week, they're there every practice at every game, living it, living the wins and, crying when we lost, so they lived and breathed Linfield football for 18 years. And then suddenly they had a chance to play here. And both of them, had opportunities to play other places and honestly higher levels, but the level kind of fit with the combination what they were looking for. Wyatt was a really good baseball player, so being able to play football and baseball here is why we got him. And in many ways, I think we got Colton. Colton was had a lot of FCS options, and I think we got him literally because of Wyatt being here, right? He wanted to. It was hard not to him to go catch passes from his brother, and so that was pretty special, not only to have them both on the team, but also be, 2 of the best players to play their position at our program. And that's pretty special. So,
And when you I guess the way I want to ask this is how do they separate dad and coach, or how did they separate dad and coach when it was, because it's an emotional game played by emotional people, and the best can keep their emotions in check. But I got to imagine there had to be some good conversations. uh
there were, I mean, especially with each other, I'm sure they got after each other pretty good, I think, but probably not too much. I mean, when Wyatt was so dominant here that, it was his team, and I don't think there was probably too much getting after Wyatt when he was his last 2 years were pretty prolific. So, um, but the nice thing is, I think as a coach, if you coach your kids growing up, had I never done that, that would have probably been a problem. But I had coached both of them and my daughter too, all growing up in all their baseball, softball teams, and so those coach player relationships got set at second, third, fourth grade, and it wasn't that big a deal. They'd call me coach in front of their teammates, and they, I treated them always probably much harder than everyone else, in terms of standards. And so I think that probably is why it worked, if that makes sense. I think
Yeah.
if you don't have those set, obviously there's all kinds of problems that could arise, um, but it went pretty well, and they didn't get in trouble. And they, that's something I'm always worried about, right? They're kids, and there was extra pressure for them that way, I think, but they just had to do things right.
Now, your daughter did not go to Linfield, although she's probably a very large Linfield fan. She just chose not to go to Linfield. Um, let's talk about, and I said there was another WIAC question I had. The team that won the national title this year, pretty prolific offense. Uh,
Yep.
would you guys call yourselves the Top Gun offense before it was flashy to call yourself the Top Gun offense? Because I mean, you guys had a run there where a lot of points, a lot of yards, a lot of plays, and wasn't many people that wanted to get into the track race with you through that time. Still today, I don't think there's a lot of people that want to get into a track race with you. So is that something that you noticed this year with that team specifically, that similarities to a lot of the teams that you've had?
Absolutely. They maximize that with physicality too. I mean, they had some really big physical players up front in that front seven, but yes, that's how they were able to win their conference, was they used their speed and definitely stretched teams out and had a nice aerial attack, vertical passing attack. And so I would say I would like to think we're very similar to that. When I watch their offense and ours, they do a little bit more empty maybe and a few different sets than we do. Um, but yeah, we've led the country in passing here, several times. So I think teams know when they're going to play us, they're going to have to defend the pass as well as the run. So
Mhm. Now, Coach, talk to us a little bit about Linfield. What are we looking for? Obviously, the kid got to be able to play football, but it's not. I think a lot of people, when I ask that question, duh, he's got to be able to play football. Yeah, but there are guys that when you're talking to them as a coach, they're as you're recruiting them. If you're not all in, then it's as hard. It's the one thing about our sport. You can go pick up basketball anytime you want. If you're a baseball player, you can go play bar league softball and have a great time. You want to play soccer, you can go kick the soccer ball around. When organized football is done, there is no organized football after that. You ain't putting the pads on and going out on a Sunday with your buddies. So what are we looking for when we're recruiting a guy to Linfield?
well, that's a great question, and I can answer that for sure, right? We're in the heart of recruiting season, so I can recruit you right now. But um, without question, the number one thing I look for is kids, they got to love football. I mean, you got to love it. And that's really what you were just speaking to. You can't like it, you can't dabble in it. It's got to be what you love, and it's a way of life. And so in college football, there's way too much practicing and training relative to playing. The ratio is much greater in terms of training to playing. High school, you got a much bigger ratio of playing. It's a much different ratio. So you got to love to train. You got to love to talk about lifting, about sleeping, because we got to have the right amount of sleep. You got to talk about nutrition. You got to be a guy that stretches. You got to be a guy that hydrates. You got to know what kind of sleep you're getting. I mean, you really do. If you want to get the maximal gains in the weight room, you got to be a trainer and eat and recover just as well as tear your body down in the weight room. So loving a football to me encompasses all that. If you love football, you love to train. If you love football, you're going to watch what you're eating. If you love football, you're going to stretch at night. If you love football, you're going to get enough hydration, right? Carry your water bottle around, and you got to do all that. I talked to the team about, your body's the team's business. It's your team's business because we do a physical skill. If you're an accountant and you're on a computer, then your body doesn't probably matter that much. But we're doing a physical skill. And so if you're not taking care of your body optimally, recovering from injuries, all that stuff, then you're letting the team down. And so if you love football, you do all that. Number two, I want men of character. think that's a big thing here is we have a great culture of excellence here. We're trying to become masters of our trade and we want to be successful in everything we're doing. That only happens if you have men of character, because if you don't have men of character whose word's good, then you're not going to ever have a team, and so we want kind of guys that are team first guys whose word's good, and that could look a lot of ways, right? But to me, it's men of character. Their word's good. If you're a liar, not going to work. Everybody makes mistakes. If you can just say it was my fault, that was my mistake, then we can move on. We can work from that. But if you can't admit when you're wrong and you lie, there's really no recovery for that, and that'll hurt you in the locker room. It'll hurt you on the field eventually. So I think that big, men of character is a big deal. And then lastly, we want the talent to play at the best in the country. I want the talent to go stand toe to toe with the kids from Wisconsin and run with the kids from Texas. Kids from Texas can fly, and they're also kind of big too. So that's a good combination. But we want to have that kind of player that can play at those levels. So our best players are guys that should be at D2 or in many cases some FCS schools. We got a lot of those kind of guys. Not a lot, but they're our best players, and then we have a bunch of young men that are late developers that just develop and achieve like crazy in the weight room and see great gains, and they become that level of player. But when we're a top 10 team, and most years we are, uh, we've got, a Division II kind of guy at every position,
Right.
that's starting. And that's what every good team at Division III has, is a bunch of D2 players and some FCS players. And every good D2 team's got they got FCS guys. And then maybe a few, above that just kind of leaked down for whatever reason. And that's how it works all the way up to Alabama and Indiana. They got some NFL guys. So that's how it works.
Now, talk to us about the recruiting area. Obviously, Oregon's going to be a big recruiting area for you, but with the West Coast, I know that as we talked to Coach Cat, Arizona is a big hit for him. Arizona's a lot less of a travel for you than it is for Coach Cat. Hawaii, I heard in an interview that you did, where that's a boots on ground. We're trying, or you guys are trying. A lot of California. Is it just the whole West Coast? We're going up and down the line, and that's boots on ground. And then what's the outward look like?
Well, I think, I'd say we're traditionally about 30%, 40% Oregon. So we still have a pretty heavy draw here. I think you have to win your backyard, but a heavy dose of Washington and California and Hawaii, those four main states. But anymore now, we had some success in Utah and Nevada. There's really good football in those areas, and there's just nowhere to go. You got to go east to Montana or over here. And so I think those states show some promise. Idaho there's great football there. Um, and so we try to recruit Idaho too. So the state things, about 7 states now we're looking at. We've toyed with Arizona. It's just so far away, and in all fairness, it's so sunny there. Kids don't always love coming here from Arizona. That's just interesting. If they do, they got to be the right guy. They got to be so tired of the desert that they don't mind a little rain.
Makes
So
sense. Um, Now, Coach, let's talk about 2025. 7-2 record. The first loss came early in the season, opening game of the season to Oshkosh, and then a loss to Whitworth. Other than that, standard is the standard. What did you notice? What was the takeaway now that the dust is settled? We're into recruiting for now 2027 and 28, I would assume, right? There's some 28 guys probably being looked at. But what was the big takeaway from 25, 26?
well, entering last year, we knew that we were vulnerable, in terms of just the talent level was very different. We graduated 52 seniors from the year before. So our 24 team was really good. It was a very, very good football team. I thought we were, top 7, 8 kind of talent team in the country. I thought in 24, we were really good. Um, Merhart and Baylor got us on a couple long plays, dang it. But I thought we could have played with anybody. When I watched how they matched up with the teams that we were right there. But with 52 kids off that team, that's a lot. We graduated 23 all-conference players, 23 all-conference players. So on both sides of the ball and special teams, so 23. We only had two returning starters on the team. So 52 guys gone, two returning starters. A lot of the guys that left were our number twos. So we literally were playing with kind of the guys that would have been on a JV team, if that makes sense. And so no experience, very, very little experience, I should say. Not no, but the least amount of experience I've ever seen here. And that's saying a lot. I've been here on 30 something squads and the least amount of returning experience. There was talent, it just was so young. And so early on, we just were making mistakes. We had some injuries, unfortunately, to go with it. Early on, we had four starters out on the O line. So not only had we graduated five starters at the O line, we had four starters out. So we're
Yeah.
down to number 9 and 10, and 11, 12. Like, so it was really tough going for a while. We just weren't very good. And we knew that out, pretty early. Like, okay, well, we just got to get better, and we just have to slowly improve and hope that we can hang in there record wise, because by the end of the year, we're going to be good. It's just going to take some time. You can't fast track it in football. There's no getting that amount of inexperience and we were starting freshmen in places. We were starting a whole bunch of first and second year players. You just can't get good that fast. You can at a few spots, but not at that many, right? And so um or I had to do it different and I just didn't do it well enough. I'm not sure, but in any case, we just weren't good enough early and we sputtered and then by game 7, 8, 9, we were really good. You just look at our points we started throwing up, we clicked, our offensive line gelled, and suddenly we were quite explosive. And I wish we would have had a chance to get in the playoffs because there's no question in my mind at the end of the year last year we would have beat both teams that beat us in the earlier in the year. We just weren't ready yet, and so optimism's quite high this year. We suddenly have experience. Now we have 20 returning starters, so in special teams, all those guys are back. So we're quite experienced and there's talent with it. So no excuses for us next year. We should be good. I don't, coach wants to say that, but we really don't. We should be a good team next year. And we were good last year. We just weren't great. We got a chance to be a really good team next year. And I don't see us being out talented in any game that we play next year. So we should be in good shape.
Well, and it's interesting you bring that 24 roster up because if I remember correctly, is I like to think that you guys are kind of one of the reasons that we got the expansion of the playoff field.
I think we are. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would say so because everybody on selection Sunday 2 years ago had the same question mark kind of in front of them: is why is this team not in the dance? Um, are we at a good spot now with the 40 teams into the tournament? Is that the number? Is that a good place? Do we have to skew it a little bit with some of these automatic bids and the conference sizes and all that? Like where do you sit on all of this as we've kind of now going into year two of the expanded playoff system?
Well, the 23 team is the team you're thinking of. So in 2023, we were number 4 in the country and we were rolling. And we had an injury to our starting quarterback, but our Lucas McNabb, who's our starter now, came in and kind of in week 8, week 9, got us through that. But we end up losing on the last drive of the last game of the regular season. Last drive. If we get a stop, we win, but we didn't. And so we lost on the last drive of the last game. We go from number 4 in the country to out. We're number 4. We're number 4. We're going to have, home field advantage through the whole playoffs to being out of the playoffs. And I think that's when we're like, the system's broken. Like that can't happen. You can't go from number 4 to out, you know. So I think 40's fine. I would have liked to have been in it this last year, sure. 41 would have been great. I don't know. But um you know, I don't know what the number is. I think they got to do what they got to do, and there are financial implications. And I think what's hard for the teams out west is we're expensive. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's it's a flight to play somewhere, and that's the biggest problem is trying to negate the flights. There's so many teams in the Midwest that you can drive. Shoot, New York's not that far from Chicago, really. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you can drive all those places. They're so close. Um, but we can't drive anywhere.
Right.
There's not one drive game that's not in conference. It's a flight. You can't drive, you know, 18 hours to California to play, and however many hours it is to Texas, I shudder, 30, I don't know if we can't do that, um, so I think that's the real problem. So I like how it is. I think it's great. I don't love the RPI system. I think it rewards. I don't love that. I liked how they were rewarding playing strong teams before. I think there's a little bit. Not sure the current system rewards you playing difficult games. They try to say it does, but I don't think it does. I think there's some, but they're going to get the perfect system. I don't know. So I'm not going to complain. I think it's great. So.
Well, it's interesting you bring when you say that about MPI because I've heard both sides of it. I've heard the argument that it does reward you, but I've also heard the argument that Linfield gets on a plane and flies out to Bethany, West Virginia, and plays Bethany on opening week, and you beat them. And this hurts me to say as a Bison, but you beat us 65-0. It doesn't matter that you beat us 65-0 if you go and play PLU and lose by a point. It's a loss is a loss and a win is a win. It doesn't seem like there's very much that goes into those sliders. That's way above me. There's other people that do that. I have stayed away from the MPI because I don't understand it. I'm trying to, but I feel like I'm in the minority of understanding how that system works. Similarly, there's a system that a lot of people think is broken across all of college football. I think naively, some people believe that it hasn't made its way to Division III. The NIL, where players can make money off their name, image, and likeness, has it made its way to Division III, or are there people that are taking advantage of it? Obviously, not to the you're not getting $1 million endorsement deal, but I'm sure that there are local companies and whatnot that want to help sponsor a kid, or has it made its way to the Division III level?
I think it is. I think that's definitely an institutional decision with what schools want to do. Our school is definitely not doing that in terms of it's there's only so much there's only so many dollars to go around in all fairness, and so as schools are fighting for survival, and I think you're going to see more and more schools go out of business in our demographics in terms of the small private schools are the ones at greatest risk as there's less kids going to college. And so as their enrollments dwindle and they can't adjust and adapt to the marketplace, they go out of business. So that's going to happen. I think the next 3 years you'll see more and more close, um, which nobody wants to see that. So knowing that money is a limited resource, are you using that for players? Are you using that for facilities? Are you using that for staffing? And I think that's the ultimate probably dilemma. And I think even the difference between NAI and Division III is your NAI facilities are typically always worse because they don't have any money for that because they're still giving their money to scholarships. And so they pay their coaches really poorly and they don't have any money for that. Whereas the Division III jobs oftentimes are a little bit better because they're funded better and the facilities typically are better because they don't have the $5,000 scholarship to give a kid, and so I think that's the battle. I think the biggest thing that's hurt Division III and all of college football is the transfer portal in conjunction with the NIL. It's no longer college sports. I mean, to say Division I is college sports, you're crazy. It's professional sports. There's not even a question. Like the contracts and everything. It's not
Right.
even a question. So that is fine, except that with the current levels where then they can just go down and buy the best players from the levels below is a real problem. And so everyone's becoming a farm system ultimately for the Ducks and Indiana and Alabama. It's just a matter of where you fit on that. And so, and it's hard to not tell a kid at a FCS school to not take $2 million. How could you tell them not to,
Right.
But the rules that allow that to occur are really going to suffer the product of football, and it's ruining the whole point of it in terms of developing success skills and developing great relationships with your teammates because now you're just paid mercenaries and they aren't. Those teams aren't. It's not even the same experience, that our kids are getting, if that makes sense. And so I would love to see that change. I'd love to see some more penalties for moving up and things like that, where you got to sit out and maybe you have to buy the team out, buy the kid out from the school below. Like I don't know why a school develops a kid and then they just lose them because a bigger school takes them. They should have to be compensated for that, just like they are in other entities, soccer and different things. You can buy kids, contracts. But I don't know. That stuff's way above me. I don't worry about it. I just see what it's happening. I see the result, and the game's not as good. Yes, there's more parity, but the quality on the field's not as strong as it used to be because people are moving around so much. You can't develop the same expertise. Now, if they let them play till they're 30, like is happening, then I guess you get that back because the kids just play for 8 years. So maybe it's coming around if they just let them have, unlimited eligibility. But
But it gets an extra year and a COVID year and then an extra
yeah,
year. And
yeah,
uh,
now those guys are highly skilled, and they're amazing. Carson Beck with his 8 years, and it's incredible, like to see that. So
now, Coach, the other big things that have come down the line here in the last 2 years, the iPads being added to the sidelines, up to I think it was 18 iPads you were allowed to have. I have yet to talk to a program or coaching staff that has all 18 iPads in use. And then the other one I think is coming down this year, which is the in-helmet communication. Uh, does that put a financial burden on an institution to get that equipment? But on the other side, is it an agreed upon thing with the conference? Like for you guys, is that a you and PLU or you and Whitworth or you and Lewis and Clark don't have somebody doesn't have it, so you're not going to use it? How does that all work?
that's a great question. We had a coaches meeting on that literally on Wednesday, and with the conference, and the short answer is nobody really knows. To the second question, the first one was the same scenario, and so the uh, the NCAA is treating it like headphones. Okay, so the headphone rule by the NCAA is you're on your own. You can use headphones or you don't have to use headphones, but you got to provide your own. So bring them or don't bring them. We don't care. That's really the NCAA's take on all of the technology now. So you can use it or not use it, but we're not going to say you can't use it if the other team doesn't have it. So you would be wise to get it. That's sort of the NCAA's seemingly that is what they're interpreting right now. If you read what they're looking at now, they are possibly meeting to talk about postseason and things like that. Should we and should we not? And so there's some uncertainty there. Um, I think with technology now, it's a rule like you can use it, so use it or don't use it, up to you, but there's no rule you can't. Now, 2 years ago, our conference did try to say, well, we should have both teams have it or not, so we did do that in our conference. I guess it was in 24.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we didn't use it if other team didn't have it. So I don't know what we're going to do with the player to coach. My gut is they gave everyone 2 years to learn about this, right? So the NCAA said you can't have it. We should have had it last year, but they said no. We're going to give you an extra year to get ready for it. We're going to allow it the following year. So use this whole year to fundraise for it. And it's maybe $6,700, for the player to coach thing. It's not 20 grand like people. I guess you could buy 20 grand systems, but you're foolish, I think. And, we're going to buy the 6,700 one and see how it works. But so I think you should do it, and the game advances, and you advance with it or you die. I mean, that's just basic life. So the game's changing. I think it's a better product for the kids. I think I was against the sideline technology. I really was. Now after having it, I can see why so many people wanted it. It is quite nice. It does make the quality of the game better. You make in-game adjustments faster. The kids are the video age, so they actually can use it sometimes as well as coaches can, just because they're always watching video on small screens. Coaches like TVs, and their laptops, but the kids can take a phone or a laptop and watch it and get a lot of information out of it. So I think the game is a better football. It pains me to say it, but I do think it's a higher sophisticated game with it. I don't know how the headphones will work yet. I think it eliminates cheating, it eliminates sign stealing
Right.
and things of that sort, more so. And I think that was the intent, right? I mean, we might as well just call this the Michigan rule. I mean,
I was going to say, are we just
Michigan's why we're doing this. Let's be real. I mean, that's the real reason. So
Um, now, Coach, the last thing on the technology side, and then we'll get into 2026. Um, the iPads being on the sideline, do you see us getting to a point at the Division III level where, and I'm going to use the targeting rule because you get a senior Let's say it's in game 9 or game 10. Let's say it happens in game 9. The second half, he gets hit with a targeting call. Now he's out. The rest of that half, the first half of what possibly is his last game. Do you think that the technology will get to a point where you as a coach can say, "Sir, can we burn a timeout and take a look at that"? I don't think that warrants a guy getting thrown out. It basically becomes an easier tool for replay. Can we get a tent like they have for I believe the playoff games have replay throughout? But do you think that we get to a point where that comes to the regular season where, you know,
We did that this year. So we did that the whole year. So we had that. So we had four turn overturned this year in terms of not targeting, but so we had a little challenge flag and coach called timeout, throw the challenge out there, and we had four games where calls were overturned. And you get one challenge, as a coach, and if it's upheld or if you win the challenge, you get another one. So
okay,
you could, I guess you could do two challenges. If now if your first one's unsuccessful, you don't get to make a second challenge, and then you have to have a timeout to challenge. So if you're out of timeouts, you don't get to challenge anymore. And I thought it was really successful. I thought, yes, the camera angles aren't as good as Division One, but like I said, we had four different games out of nine where a significant play was overturned, and that's significant. They're usually scoring plays or turnovers. Monumental plays that you'd like to get right, and so I think it's really important to have sideline replay. I think not only for, yes, the right call, but I think it helps officials get better because they're learning it. Like they're learning how to use replay. They have to, like, to move up, right? They want to move up. So I think it's a critical tool for the officials. But by far the most important part of sideline replay, and it should be in every game. It's easily done. We have the sideline replay. We did it at every game.
okay,
And if we can do it, anyone can. I mean, if my staff can figure it out, anyone's staff can, because we're not the video experts of the world. Uh, and then, but the biggest thing is it makes the game safer. I really believe that because officials now will call targeting more often if they know that it can be revoked because they don't want to death penalty a kid. They don't want to kick a kid out. They really don't. And so they're hesitant to call those if they think it's an automatic ejection, just as you're saying. And so by taking those hits out of the game, by calling them more often, and replay will allow those to be called more often, you make the game safer. So I would argue, and I did make this argument, it is a player safety issue as much as it is, and that's really the main impetus for it in our conference was a player safety because it
right,
does make the game safer. And if you can eliminate one catastrophic injury, then it was worth it.
absolutely. Now let's get into 2026. So you guys will travel in the non-con. You'll travel to Oshkosh and to Chapman, and then get into conference play. What, as you said, with the guys coming back, there's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of optimism in the building. Has spring ball started?
We start on Monday. So we're getting ready to go. Yes. Yes.
What's the goal? What's the goal coming out of spring ball?
Well, the goal for me is I guess, as you got a lot of hats, right? So I'm our offensive coordinator and also our head coach. And so sometimes they're not at cross purposes, but they can be, right? As a head coach, you can really look at the bigger picture sometimes. As an OC, sometimes you get locked into that. And so the nice thing is I've done it long enough. I know what sort of works, and I have a decent balance. And Coach Vaughn, our D coordinator, has been with me for almost 30 years. I mean, he's really the reason why we're good is he's a tremendous coach, and really really proud of him. But um, the uh, the goal out of spring ball is, I think, number one is for us to really master our schematics and our fundamentals, and that's you got to have both, right? I mean, and also our physical skills, so that's different, right? That's the training part. But as far as spring practice goes, we have to get the fundamentals to set the foundation of next year's season. So really how you run your routes, how you block, how you tackle, the mechanics of your skills have to really have a major priority because during the season, those tend to take a lesser priority because you're so scheme oriented. And so I think the spring has to be massively fundamental technical movement emphasis. We have to have the fundamental movement patterns down correctly. And and really break that down and spend more time on it. And so, our meetings will be different. We'll really be breaking receivers down in their press releases and how we're doing this, D line pass rush moves, O line, really hit the mechanics as much as we can. And then, yes, build the foundation of your systems, your schematics. And I think that's a whole different set of skills, right? You got to know that's the what to do. The how to do is the mechanics. You got to know how to do it, but the what to do is your plays and your X's and O's. And so understanding their systems and how everything works together, I think is really important because then in the season you're not making crap up. So any innovation you do is spring ball, right?
Right.
Any tweaks is spring ball. And so that's where I was saying at cross purposes, the OC of me wants to try stuff out. Like I know I think this is a great idea. I want to try it now. And then okay, this is no good. Fine. I wasted a spring ball practice, but I didn't waste a practice in week 2. You know what I mean? And so I think that's you lose when you do that in the fall. And so I think any innovation that you really want to try, it occurs in the spring. And so I think all three of those are important goals for me.
Would you like to see spring ball adapted or changed or more mirrored to the Division 2, the Division 1 level?
Of course. I mean, who wouldn't, right? I don't know that we need a spring game. We don't need to sell tickets and raise money. We
Right.
don't need to do that. And yes, I agree with the trying to minimize injuries in the spring. I disagree with the meat grinder approach that Division 1 has, where they get all these kids hurt. We would not do that. But I do think there has to be some and we have. I mean, I coached when we couldn't even have a football out there,
Right.
right? We had a triple towel, and so now at least we can have helmets on, and that was a huge gain. Like, having all the facial injuries that we had because we couldn't wear helmets, that was so silly, and to have a helmet in a football is for me is oh, I'm so thankful because now our younger guys can't stand it, but they don't know the difference. Well, it could be worse. We could have a towel, and so at least we're able to do some things. But yes, I think eventually for the safety of our athletes to put them in pads more to where we can teach tackling and blocking even better, I think is really important just from keeping the head up and just for the safety aspects. It's hard to do that without you can do it, but it's harder to do it without that. And so I think some hybrid progression would be nice to where we get a little bit more. But hey, we got 4 padded practices now. We went from no ball and no helmet to a helmet and a ball, and now what we get to put on shoulder pads 4 times. Like, wow, this is amazing, So sure, is the number 6, is the number 8 practice? I don't know, but I'm thankful for what we have.
Right.
If we could have more, great, but I'm happy and thankful.
And then before we get into the Fast Five, I want to ask you two more questions. One, um, what is the significance of Division 3? And I ask that question because a lot of people, glorified intramurals. It's not really college football because you don't get a scholarship. Uh, I hear that, and I assume you've never watched a Division 3 football game. You've never been in that atmosphere. But what is the biggest thing for Division 3 that you could tell uh, maybe a junior or a senior that's looking to get into or to get recruited? Why should they consider Division 3?
Well, I think any kid should find the place that fits them the best, So I don't know if Division 3 is for every person. And I just know this. I know that there's more, there's 280 teams or some 260 that play Division 3 football, and the top 30 teams on any given year are really stinking good, and they are really good football teams, and they are filled with players that didn't take money to come to that fit, right? So they actually gave up money somewhere to come play there. So they specifically chose it over a place where they were getting scholarship money because of the fit. Now, the fit was probably academics and football. It was probably team and experience over just saying on social media, I got my $3,000 scholarship. And so my team is made up of kids that turned down NAI and D2 offers to come play here because they wanted the combination of athletics and academics. They wanted top rate football and good academics, and they wanted that team. They wanted to be part of a close-knit group of guys. And as soon as you pay players, you will lose team. And so I would argue that your Division III teams are without question a better experience. Every single one of them, because everybody's equal. Everybody gets what they earn. There is no guarantee of playing time because we bought money. We gave you money, so we got to play you. There's none of that. And the best play, and they're all in it together. And it's a superior level of football for experience. It really is. It's clean, it's pure, but not everybody can afford it. And so that's my biggest heartbreak is not everyone can afford it. And that sometimes they got to take the $5,000 down at the local NAI because that's all they can afford. And that $5,000 is a huge difference, for some kids. So that's where I'm still belating, or still missing our NAI days where we could give a kid $5,000 bump and now suddenly meet their need and, not have them be so stressed financially. Um, so I think it's a tremendous experience. I really do. I think the people are in it for the right reasons. The teams are really tight. Uh, but the biggest difference isn't the quality of football. I mean, look how many of our good D3 teams go out and beat D2s and NAIs, and they do every year, and they will every year. The top 30 Division III teams will beat the tar out of the middle of the road D2s and the NAIs. Now, the top NAIs and the top will be really competitive, and the top D2s will probably beat the top D3s. That's why they're D2. But there's all that in between that's right there.
Well, and Coach, I misspoke. That was perfect answer. I was actually going to. My follow up to that was I believe listening to your interview earlier today. That's one of the reasons why your son came to Linfield, right? Is he had the opportunity to play baseball and football, and a lot of those bigger schools or the next level up, next levels up, they don't want you to two sport it. They want you're here to play football. You're going to play football. Whereas Division III gives that opportunity. I've heard Coach Sirianni at W&J, that's a big thing for him when he talks about how, why spring ball doesn't get expanded is because you have a lot of track baseball players. You have those dual athletes that, you wouldn't have, you might lose a lot of those guys that are going to be key pieces for the following season. When I said I misspoke, I said I only had two more questions before we got to the Fast Five. I have to add one more. You are 19 wins away from passing Coach Rushman. And for those of you that are familiar with that name, you probably know I believe it's his grandson. He plays for the Orioles. Is that right? What would it mean for you to pass Coach?
Well, I didn't really realize that. I knew it was, in the future, but thanks for bringing that up, I guess. But I don't really think about things like that, and I probably won't until it happens. I played too much baseball and talked about, I've always been superstitious with things like that too much. But any time you can be in any conversation and have Rutschman's name, be in that's significant. And without question, he's the greatest impact that's probably been on my life, as a mentor, and certainly I hope to make him proud all the time. So he still coaches with us. So I don't know if you know that, but he's 93 now, and still coaches our kickoff return team. So
I did not know.
Comes out twice a week and is still as meticulous and feisty as he ever was, and it's just an honor to be around him. So yeah, so that's a tribute to him.
93 years old, and he just is just coming out and being just one of the guys. I mean, he's just now that's a football story.
He's not one of the guys. Like everybody knows who Coach is. He's the general, so he's not one of the guys, but he is the guy. So,
and then, Coach, what would be your advice to anybody younger that wants to? And I know we touched on it a little bit when talking about if you're going to coach where you played. But what would be your advice for anybody young coach that wants to get into either coaching to begin their career or considering making that move up to a coordinator and or head coach position?
Well, I think you got to bloom where you're planted, number one. And oftentimes your greatest opportunity to coach is where you played, because coaching hires typically on character reference and work ethic, right? All the character attributes. Can I trust you? Can you get along with people? Can you work hard? And so your current coach knows that. Plus, you know the system. You're an expert of the system. And it's so hard to train a new coach in your new system. I don't care where you go. It's really hard. I think it takes a full year for a coach to come in and integrate and learn a new system. It's really difficult. So, having those young players move into coaching roles is very conducive and very effective. And so I think you have more opportunity to coach and have more responsibility if you're coaching where you played. So I do believe in that. I do also think it's important to go meet other people and have more connections. So there's merit in that too. But I would always say the number one thing is, man, just bloom where you're planted, and whatever you're doing, do it well, because there's always a demand for quality and integrity. And if you do what you're doing well, you'll get noticed and you'll get recommendations and opportunities will come.
Now we're going to the Fast Five. These questions are just about you. However you want to answer them.
All right.
If you could live anywhere in the world, and I think I know the answer to this, but if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Well, probably McMinnville, because that's where we're here. But I mean, probably Montana. I love Montana. I love it. Love the outdoors. I love the fishing. I love skiing. So I think Montana someday would be a wonderful place to live.
What's the most important lesson that you've learned thus far over your career?
I think to try to do the job that you're doing to the best of your ability, whatever that is, no shortcuts, do it the right way the first time and take pride in it. But whatever your job is, if you're getting coffee, man, be the best coffee getter you can be.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
Well, I thought I was going to be an archaeologist at one time. I was a big believer in that. I thought I'd be Indiana Jones. So I thought maybe that, but then maybe I thought psych. But I probably would be in the military. If I didn't go into coaching, I probably would have flown jets in the military. I think that was something that I probably would have done.
Best compliment you've ever received?
Probably my wife saying I do, probably the best one. But as a coach, I think, teams, I don't know. You're stumping me on that one. Coach Rutschman says, we've done well. That's a pretty good compliment to me. So.
And then on the other side of compliments, what's the best insult you've ever got?
I've gotten a few of those. So, the best insult I ever got, we were waiting to go on to the field at St. Thomas, and we were alive in the semifinals, and I was trying to find a place to talk to my team to take the field, right? To do the last at halftime, to do the last minute take the field thing, and we couldn't get a space. They didn't give us a space, and so we were between two buses, and the person that was in charge of the TV broadcast was this lady, and she was berating me for being low class and used the A word and just blasted me because I wasn't taking the field right at her time, because I wanted to talk to our team. So I've kind of always remembered that, as you can tell. That one's kind of stuck with me. So
say that's it.
Yeah.
And then the last question I ask everybody: was there a question you were expecting me to ask you? And if so, how would you have answered it?
How good are we going to be next year or something like that? I don't know. I guess that would be one. I think we'll be a good team next year. I think if we improve to our utmost, like that's our goal every year, I think we'll be able to stand before most any team in the country next year, I believe. We'll find out real fast game one with Oshkosh, how we match up, and then Chapman's good football team. We'll play them game two. So I think we'll know after two games how we stack up. So excited for it.
Well, Coach, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to join us, be the first guest this year on Dingo Talk season 5. I want to wish you best of luck in year 37 here at Linfield, year 20 as the head coach. And let's hope that at the end, this time next year, we're talking about number 70 and who knows, maybe you see us on this side of town or on this side of the country when you make your way to Salem in January.
We'd love to make that happen. So thank you very much. Appreciate you having us on the show, and best of luck to your show this whole year. So thank you.
Thank you, Coach. And we'll be right back, Chuckleheads.
breaking limits, redefine. On a mission, yeah, on a rise. Breaking limits.
How about Pavon Bankston?
On a rise, breaking limits, redefine. On a mission. What is that? Put the city on my back, yeah. Trophy stack, got too many in my bag, yeah. Competition, ain't too many on my path, huh? Switch the flow, I had too many in my bag. Whoa. What do you mean, What do you see, Up in the sky, I'm just like a plane, but really it's me, Ain't gonna fall, I've been here before, so don't be deceived, You like the clock, I run up the scores, two different things, On a rise, breaking limits,
McNabb,
redefine, on a mission,
down the
yeah.
field, touchdown
Breaking
Linfield.
limits, redefine, on a mission, yeah. On a rise, on the rise, we on a rise.
I can catch you in the paint of the end zone. We ain't gotta take a flight, cause we been home. Any city that my feet touch, conquistador. Play my role to make a goal. Only Hall of Fame mode. I'm a sunrise in the east, wind in the streets. It had to be. Don't forget to speak. Keep the peace for the peace. It's shalom when you see me bucking dog with an arm like I'm Lilith from the top. I'm a ace from every time that I talk, but of course I walk with a force in control in the midst of my ops. I just pause.
On a rise, breaking limits, redefine.
And they'll play action. Meadows wide open in the end zone, and the Wildcats are on the move.
Redefine, on a mission, on a rise. On the rise.
They're gonna get it here to Chase Barang, who's gonna break one immediately. Here goes the freshman, all the way to the house.
On the rise. On the rise.
Yeah, I gotta keep dreaming, gotta keep going. Yeah, I gotta keep pushing, gotta keep breathing. Yeah, I gotta keep working. Yeah, at least for the moment, I start with $1 million. And I want my mansion, so my family knows that we are set for life. Yeah, ain't nothing that's gonna take over. Shit, know when they're gonna take it, but I grab it. I'm a habit, I've been cutting my habits. So I gotta do it, man, I tell them to madness. Cause I've been really better, man, I want my status. Damn, they gonna see that I do this, they gonna see that I did this though. Now they say, oh shit, I can't do the same when you kidding, bro. Cause I spend my time just working, but I spend my time just grinding. And I spend my time in the studio with these lyrics. Just
Quickly here and off to the races for Dave Meta to the 30, the 20.
I'm up the shoulder without it been on you. Somebody do it, let me see it all around you. Cause we pull up with action, yeah, we
And
make
will
it.
throw as Woodcock one-on-one. Caught. Touchdown, Linfield. Yeah, will run it himself. Has room going. What a hurdle by McNabb and has the first. McNabb airs it to the right side, locking it again, and he breaks away. Here he goes, Ty Lockett, the speedster.
But they don't even know me, they don't know what I can bring. It's thunder out the sky, I'm electric with these.
Pfeiffer on the last carry, and this time McNabb will get all the way through for the touchdown.
People, the way that we move, like we about to get this. Homie, we're working so hard, like all of our time. We've been investing in the work, investing in my time, investing in the team, investing in
Throws that way, it's broken up and intercepted. Reed Gray with the early pick off the tip pass.
big cash, big case. Honestly, a lot of things, a lot of risks, big stakes. Make a whole all in 6 days. No tapping out, no sick days. Big vibes, big waves, just fuego on the big stage. I am a monster.
Second and one. Nab, play action, rolling to his right, has Meadow wide open in the end zone for the Linfield touchdown, and the Cats lead.
Let me have a bro. Listen, I'm the leader of the new school.
Have to evade the blitz from the linebacker, chucks it down the field. He has Chase McCollum deep. McCollum brings it in.
Don't smile if somebody do you shady. That's a
Biggest play of the game for the CLU offense. Alani bringing pressure, airs it out, and it's intercepted once again. Pavon Bankston for the second time.
rock with. So now steak and lobster. Get bougie on a baby. Filthy said I got an opportunity for you, baby. Be yourself, stay amazing. Cut the beat, laceration of your life. All it is what you make it. But always be the person that you please.
They end up going to Spurbeck on the screen. He makes one tackler miss at the 10, beats off a second man, and now he gets into the end zone for the touchdown. Matthew Spurbeck in the receiving game. Gonna have to air it here to the left side and picked off. Ravon Bankston will get it to the 30, to the 20, to the 10. Bankston with the touchdown.
Lights, camera, action on. Make 'em believe it, make 'em believe it. Lights, camera, action on. They love how we do it when it's done. Lights, camera.
McNabb in the pocket with time, looking for Woodcock and connects inbounds to set up first and goal.
I'm looking like I don't know what lost. Says
And touchdown, Linfield. Cade Wells brings it in on the score from River Lee.
And my Dr. King gone, living out my dreams across the map. I stay gone. Heavy morning, I'm cracking the dawn and popping on. World wonder, legendary. They can't compare me. They switch sides
Now
and cross
McNabb looking across the middle and touchdown, Linfield. Elijah Howard.
Lights, camera, action on. Nothing like them, I'm a 101. Been on a long run like a marathon. I can't stop now, I just begun. Lights, camera, action on. Make 'em believe it.
Down the field, caught. Touchdown, Linfield. Getting it going early.
Make 'em believe it. Lights, camera, action on. They love how we do it when it's done. Lights, camera.
Nice run for Spurbeck. Here he goes. Matthew Spurbeck, open field. And still alive, finally dragged down inside the 20. Tight ends here, both on the right side for Linfield. They'll go to the other side for the quick pass to Woodcock, and he'll bring it in for the touchdown. Here goes Luke McNabb, another hurdle, and he gets it inside the 5. Another big throw from McNabb for Shavar Lampkin, and the freshman Floridian brings it in at the 5-yard line. They'll go quickly on the screen. It'll be the receiver pass intended for Emberlin, and it's caught. They'll look his way, throw it to him on the fade, and he'll bring it in. And senior day starts off right for Caleb Woodcock. For total touchdowns, they'll go for Barang on the fade, and Jace has his second. 3rd and 11 for the Wildcats. What a catch by Sean Emberlin for the first down.
Yeah, I'ma do it all in bold, bold, big letters, cause I'm
Across the middle, intercepted. Helwani.
glow.
Send Shavar Lampkin in motion. They make the handoff to him. Give the ball to Matthew Spurbeck, and Spurbeck is for the touchdown.
Never sleeping on my dreams, yeah, I'm really trying to grow. I ain't
They
tryna
go to the
chase
right
perfection.
side, airing it out in the corner of the end zone, and another Linfield touchdown.
Check the watch, said it's game time. Got a lot up my sleeve in the pipeline. Yeah, we stepping on the gas, got a new drive. We already
Gonna go for it right here, and he has it. Jace Parang with the hat trick.
Cause I'm bold, bold, on the map, round the globe, globe. Yeah, we putting on a show, everybody gonna know I'ma do it all in all caps for the second time. All facts, no one never lie.
Obegi right up the gut, untouched for a touchdown. Case Obegi. Now gonna have to scramble this time, throws it across the middle, and Emberlin for the big 10-j run. Sean Emberlin with the house call.
Gas, got a new drive, we already making headlines. Gotta do it cause I'm bold, bold.
All the way to the 10, the 5, touchdown, Linfield, Julian Thomas.
Yeah, we putting on a show, everybody gonna know I'ma do it all.
Here will be the catch and run by McAuliffe, and now it's McAuliffe off to the races. Touchdown, Chase McAuliffe.
You don't need to zoom in, I'ma do it all in bold. Yeah, you know I'm in that.
6 from the 12 has his man. It's Emberlin with his second touchdown of the day.
Never getting old, gonna do it all in bold, bold. Front cover like it's Vogue, Vogue. Yeah, you know I do the
And run to the left, has the corner, has the touchdown.
Gonna do it all in. I'ma do
Now
it
facing
all
pressure, now he'll go to his left, has Woodcock, brought it in inside
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.